The first policy is on grading, code II.
Good evening. For the record, I am Jessica Cutchis, representing the Legislative and Policy Office, and I'm excited to speak to you tonight about the Latin Honors Recognition, also known as the Cum Laude Honors Recognition. This will be a new recognition for Anne Arundel County Public School graduates that will honor their academic achievement and success. On the panel with me tonight is Dr. Maureen McMahon, Deputy Superintendent of Schools for Academic and Strategic Initiatives, Mr. Anthony Austin, Director of Equity and Accelerated Student Achievement, Dr. Kathy Kubik, Associate Superintendent for School Performance, Ms. Alyssa Whitaker, Senior at Glen Burnie High School, and Mr. Jason Dykstra, Executive Director of the Instructional Data Division. As you are aware, we have been working on a comprehensive review of our grading policy. As a part of that review, we identified 4 major areas in need of updates. Strategically, we have addressed each one of these areas individually beginning in the fall of 2015, when we moved from a final examination model to a quarterly assessment model, which brings assessments closer to the time of instruction and allows for assessments to truly inform instruction. In the spring of 2016, we provided language updates regarding our redo or opportunity for mastery provisions of the grading policy in an effort to better align our practices around this part of the policy and to provide consistency across the district. Tonight, we are here to talk to you about the addition of the Latin Honors Recognition, and in the spring, we will be back to discuss one more provision of the grading policy. Throughout this comprehensive grading policy update, we met with and vetted each grading policy revision with many stakeholders, including the CAC, CRASC, TAC, principals, PIAC, County Council of PTAs, Superintendent's Teen Advisory, Superintendent's Teacher Advisory, and other staff groups and interested parties. The feedback we received from these groups informed and helped shape the different revisions we have brought to you regarding the grading policy. I will now turn it over to Dr. McMahon, who will talk a bit about the philosophy of this new recognition for our students.
Thank you, Ms. Kuchis. As Ms. Kuchis said in her remarks, we're excited to be moving to the Latin Honors model. As you know, our AACPS teaching and learning is grounded in a belief in the growth mindset philosophy. All students can, and all students can achieve greatness, and they can reach their potential. We believe that. Students are all on a learning journey, and we want to recognize them when they reach excellence against the high achievement standards we set in our AACPS courses. But we want to do more than simply recognize the students with the highest GPAs in each of our high schools. We want to support our students to make good choices, to choose courses aligned to their passions and their interests, and then do well in those courses that they choose. We want our students to learn what it means to be well-rounded young people, learners who know themselves, persons who take risks, get a little bit outside their comfort zones, students who work hard at their academics and play hard on the sports fields, the theater stages, the concert halls, the art studios, and in the many, many, many club competition venues they routinely visit inside the district at the state and the national levels. We want our students to make healthy choices in school, choices that will help them learn what areas they enjoy and what areas they may wish to entertain for college and career in the future. College and employers, we know this, are looking for the healthy, well-rounded student. Confucius once said, "The will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential, these are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence." Within each of our students lies this potential for excellence. When students succeed at the high levels we have set in our high school coursework, we want to celebrate those successes. We want to celebrate with every single student who reaches these high standards of excellence. My colleagues will now tell you a little bit more about the details of the Latin honors system that we want to move and we eventually want to implement in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Mr. Austin.
Thank you. Latin honors are awards of distinction given to students who meet or exceed specific levels of academic achievement. This system is widely used by colleges and universities, in addition to a growing number of high schools throughout the country. Latin honors not only have a long academic tradition, but the system is familiar and understandable to college admission officers and prospective employers. Latin honors represent a much broader spectrum of academic accomplishments. The three levels of Latin honors include summa cum laude, which translates to with highest honor for students who have earned a 4.3 or higher weighted GPA, magna cum laude, with great honor for students who have earned a weighted GPA of 4.29 to 4.0, and cum laude, which translates to with honor or with praise for students who have earned an unweighted GPA of 3.4 to 4.0. This is reflective with distinct academic standards, while also giving more students the opportunity to work hard and earn recognition for their achievements. Latin honors are more fundamentally equitable. When academic recognition is based on student-to-student comparisons, rather than the same consistent standards, one student's success is another student's failure. And when success and failure are defined by fractionally small differences in GPA, the fundamental fairness of the system is called into question. If the Latin honor system had been in effect for the graduating class of 2016, the students that would have been honored would have included students in all racial and ethnic backgrounds, students receiving ELL services, free and reduced meal services, and special education services. As you can imagine, some of our students decline to take courses or pursue personal interests or passions because they present a mathematical disadvantage when it comes to calculating GPA, such as a non-weighted child development course, for example. The Latin honor system makes it possible for any student to achieve honor status, rather than only 2 students per school, whose performance may be based on relatively small differences in GPA. The Latin honor system recognizes all students whose performance meet high academic standards.
We plan to phase in this edition for the current high school students by adding the Latin honors recognition for this year's graduating class of 2017. High school students will experience a gradual phase out of the valedictorian salutatorian honor, with the class of 2019 experiencing the Latin honors recognition without the valedictorian and salutatorian honor. I will now turn it over to Ms. Alyssa Whitaker, a senior at Glen Burnie High School, who will share her student perspective on this matter.
So just a side note, I am speaking on behalf of myself, not Krask, and kind of just piggybacking off of what everyone else is saying tonight. It's all about equality and equity. Personally, I went to an MYP IB middle school, Old Mill, and I came into high school with 4 high school credits. I have counterparts who didn't necessarily receive that opportunity, so they didn't come into high school with those credits. So statistically, it would be very hard for them to achieve valedictorian status over me, who I have an upper hand above them. And I think that it also ensures healthy competition amongst students. One student doesn't have to take another one down to make sure that they're going to be on top, because they can all be on top together. I think at graduation, you might look on stage and you'll see the valedictorian talking or the salutatorian talking, and you'll say, I was in the same calculus class as that person, but yet at graduation, they look more important than me. They're being recognized, you know. So I do think that it also does something to your mental health. And along with students who they curve and schedule their essentially their classes and their lives around being valedictorian. And I know I was that kid coming into freshman year. I had to be valedictorian. I had to get straight A's. I had to be at the top of my class. And at some point in time, I had a realization, an epiphany that is not what really matters. What matters is making the softball team. What matters is being second chair celloist. Those are the things that matter. And I think by switching to this program, kids can really follow their passions. It doesn't have to be so competitive and so serious all the time.
So let's end with this image. What do we not see? We don't see only two kids at the top of the mountain. We don't see kids competing against each other. Well said. What we do see is many kids on the top, on their journey to the top of the mountain, competing not against each other, but against the different standards at each level of the Latin honor system. Students can choose their own goal, choose their own path, and their own mountaintop, and students can work together on the journey depending on the different standard they choose. We hope you join us in our enthusiasm for the Latin honor system, and at this time we'll take any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Gilliland.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all for this presentation. Ms. Whitaker, thank you for being here and joining in on this as well. Just a couple of questions that I'll ask relative to other school systems and the adoption that may be occurring elsewhere. Would you be able to tell us if other local school systems have adopted this in the state?
So that's a good question, Mr. Gilliland. No, in Maryland at this point in time, no one else has adopted the Latin honor system. However, across the nation, there have been school systems adopted this. Certainly, higher ed, is very familiar with this system. It's recognized across higher ed nationwide. But in the private school sector, this has been something that's well recognized for a long period of time. But now we have major school systems. The most recent one I think that's been in the news is Wake County in North Carolina, the largest school system in North Carolina, public school system, and they adopted it in June.
And you mentioned or made reference to higher education community. Could you give us a sense of what their feedback as the school system in North Carolina, and then certainly where it's occurred elsewhere, has the reception among the higher education community been fairly positive?
So what the higher education community told to us, and a few of us on this committee have spoken to admissions counselors and other folks in higher ed, both in Maryland and at some of the most prestigious schools in the nation. And what they've told us with respect to looking for students, and what we see it actually represented in the applications for new freshmen now over the last few years. They're looking for a well-rounded student who is excelling in what they choose to do in the classroom. This is not a trophy for every student. This is really, the Latin honor system is saying what you choose to do well in that. In other words, that's our jobs, right? But what they're saying is we want that student who has explored and who has some passions and interests that they've been experiencing for a few years, and where they can really say, I'm going into college, and I might not know what I want to be 4 years from now, but I know what I like. I've had some chance to explore what I like, what I don't like. Maybe I played in the band, the cello, or I took art classes, and I can be value added to that university community. I can talk about what I want from you as an institution of higher ed, and I can talk about what I'll bring to the institution of higher ed because of what I know about myself and my passions, desires, and expertise.
And just a final question then to drill back to Maryland, maybe a curveball a bit here, but if we're the pioneer in this area compared to our counterparts, do you know if any of our other counterparts are exploring this within Maryland? Right,
so we have various systems. We've spoken with a few folks in Howard County, and they're talking about it. I do not know, I cannot say how seriously, but they're talking about it. We also want to bring to your attention that although Montgomery County has not gone to the Latin honors, they have, and Jason can speak a little more, in greater depth than I on this, but they have done away with the ranking. So the GPA issue has changed in Montgomery County for them.
So for quite a few years now in Montgomery County, they absolutely do not rank students at all, even upon request. So there is no class ranking system in Montgomery County Public Schools, and the reports back from them indicate that it is working just fine for the college admissions process, scholarships, etc. Those students are able to showcase themselves through applications, essays, resumes, and their students are doing quite well. But there is no class ranking system in Montgomery County Public Schools, either on a transcript or behind the scenes, even in their computer system. Yeah, there is no valedictorian or salutatorian, and as a result of no class rank.
Ms. Williams.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. My first question would be, why after the seniors of next year will Val-Sal completely be phased out instead of phasing it out with the freshmen of this year? Because that's what it reads in the policy, correct?
It's a great question. It really is it's a really great idea, and we really want to do it sooner than later. We really believe that it's best for the majority of our students. We want to recognize excellence across the board, regardless of what program of study you choose. And at that point, we want to get to that sooner than later. What we know very specifically is that the students who are in the competition, they've set that as their goal. Most of the time that really starts in junior and senior year. That's when most of our AP, IB courses are offered, and so that's when you have the opportunity to pursue that weighted GPA that would potentially lead you to be in that top 1% and potentially number 1 or number 2 in your class. That doesn't typically impact freshmen and sophomores, so the quicker we can get to a more balanced recognition system that recognizes all of our students for their outstanding achievement, I think that's better for the system.
Thank you. Okay, and then my last question would just be, are we still going to make class ranks available for students individually if they still want to see that, since it won't be recognized at graduation, or what's going to happen with that?
So our intent is that, in fact, if they needed those class ranks for a service academy application, for scholarships, competitive scholarships, some require a rank, or it's desirable to have a rank, we will be able to offer that rank to the students for any process they're going through at the time of college application.
Thank you.
Mrs. Birch.
Well, Ms. Williams stole one of my questions. Another question that I have is, how did you choose the grade point averages for each of the levels? Because obviously it's different than college, because college doesn't have weighted grades.
It's an excellent question. We played with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of transcripts. We built a model that we could kind of play with to see, but we had several criteria that was really important to the committee and to all the stakeholders that we went out to see. We initially started with some kind of give-me's, if you will. We wanted to make sure that we recognized approximately 20% of a graduating class. We didn't want to recognize too many, but we didn't want to recognize too few. We also wanted to make sure that we had students from any student group have the opportunity to earn honors. And so we also wanted to make sure that each high school in our system would have students in all 3 levels of the cum laude system. And so we kept playing with it. We played with 4-4, we played with 4-3, and we looked at 3 graduating classes as a representative sample. So we looked at all of the graduates from class of 2014, class of 2015, and most recently the class of 2016. And in each case, the numbers that you saw on the screen tonight were very representative. Summa cum laude comes out around the top 5, maybe 6% of the class. Magna cum laude comes out right around a little bit more than that, 6 to maybe 7% of the class. And cum laude, very similarly, about 6 or 7% of the class. And what we found is that all student groups, as Mr. Alston mentioned, were represented in that. Most of those students all had A's and B's, which are largely attributed to outstanding academic achievement. And so we really felt comfortable with both who was getting the recognition, what the profiles of their transcripts looked like, and how it was represented in all of our high schools in the district.
Okay. I also wanted to comment, and I want to say thank you so much for doing this, because I mean, I don't know if you remember, this is something I've been talking about for years, because since I got on the board, and a lot of times it's been our own student board members who have stressed me out because of what they're trying to do. And, you know, I remember one year having a board member who told me what her GPA was and that she was 19th in her class. And I said, how could you possibly be 19th in your class with this GPA that was phenomenal? And I think she knew everyone's GPA 18 and up, like who they were and what all the GPAs were. And I thought that was unhealthy. It seemed wrong to know all of that. And, you know, she's telling me how many classes everybody's taking and what they're taking and why they can't take photography. And that worried me. It didn't seem right that that people were taking 15 and 16 and 17 AP classes so that they could be at the top of the class, when maybe you just want to learn how to take a picture, because really you're going to use that a lot more in your life than some of those AP classes, which you're going to take in college anyway. Isn't it, it's interesting you said the school system in North Carolina that did this. Isn't it Chapel Hill that has now said that it doesn't matter if you took 5 AP classes or 15, five AP classes means you're an AP student, according to them, when you apply to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
So I can't specifically speak to North Carolina, but I can say across the nation, the institutions of higher education are really changing that expectation of what it means to be an excellent student. And they're changing it with the idea, not about grades, because they still want to see excellence, but they're saying, you know, we need to see that you challenged yourself.
Right.
But we don't need to see an unhealthy challenge of yourself.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
you're right.
I think it was Chapel Hill that I remember reading that about,
could be
that
easily
they said we don't need you to take 15 AP classes in high school. You know, if you've taken 5, we recognize that as being an AP student. 15 does not get you any more from us than 5 would have. And I think that's something students need to realize. There's no reason to kill yourself. You know, you're 16. Be 16. Thank you.
Mr. Green.
I've got 3 questions, which I hope are quick. Why are the criteria for Summa and Magna weighted and the criteria for cum laude unweighted? That's the first question. The second question is, have any of the jurisdictions that you looked at outside of Maryland adopted these Latin honors, the 3 traditional Latin honors, but maintained the valedictorian and salutatorian status? And then 3, did you all consider that as an option?
So Jason, do you want to take the first one?
The primary purpose to the cum laude being a unweighted GPA is we have some, when we did all of these kind of audits of transcripts from the class of 2014, 15, and 16, what we discovered very quickly is we have some truly outstanding students in this district that are in very specialized programs, such as mentioned earlier tonight, CAT North and CAT South, that don't have the opportunity because of those programs to be in advanced weighted courses. Sometimes our music students, our art students, a lot of our theater art students who truly excel in the classroom in these really awesome programs don't take advanced weighted courses, and their transcripts are absolutely phenomenal. And we wanted a recognition system and are proposing a recognition system in Anne Arundel County Public Schools where any student would have the opportunity to meet that standard and get recognition.
One follow-up, does the implication of that mean that if they're not taking the weighted classes and they have an unweighted GPA of 4.1, for example, they might not qualify for Magna? Is that what that means?
That would be correct. So Magna is exclusively, as proposed, a weighted GPA, and cum laude is an unweighted GPA. And you can't have a 4.1 unweighted GPA. The highest would, if you got straight A's and you never took an honors or an advanced class, you would have a 4.0 GPA.
Got it. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I'm not quite here yet.
I'm thinking about that. So I'll take your second question. Did your 6-year-old, your two-year-old are going to love the answer. So one of the cool things about working on a policy like this is we get to vet it through a lot of different groups. And you asked about why not maintain both. And I'm going to give you the voice of parents, kids, and then our high school principals who are really close to this issue. And what we heard from those groups was what the new system does is honor and recognize more kids for all the right reasons. And if you leave that other system in the background, then you're overshadowing the purpose of bringing the new one in. And I have to go back to this wonderful picture. It's that you have 3 different very high levels in the honor system. A 3-4 unweighted, think about that. A 3-4 unweighted is pretty much all A's and B's. Then to get a 4.0 weighted, you're going to have taken some challenging courses, but still have done well. And then to get a 4.3 weighted, I mean, to see the transcripts when Mr. Dykstra laid them out, we're like, wow, that's quite an accomplishment. So to have that be the new goal takes away everything that the other system was bringing in as a backdrop and a distractor. So we really did. We said, we do have to honor the fact that some of those kids, the juniors and seniors, have already done some course scheduling and had that in their mind. But if we can now counsel our younger students into taking these healthier options and honoring them too when they get to graduation, it would be a much better option for our students.
And did any of the jurisdictions that you looked at outside of Maryland go to the Latin honors but maintain the valedictorian and the salutatorian?
Not that we saw, with the most recent one being Wake County, and they chose not to do that as well.
I think another added value to that is that also, like we shared, it allows the students to participate in the courses that are their passion, right? So it shouldn't be that you have to choose between taking that orchestra class so you can be the second seat cello, because you aren't going to get a weighted GPA for that. Right, so by offering both the unweighted and the weighted, it allows for that aspect, but then also with moving to that system, it allows for students to pursue their passion, to pursue their love, and be that well-rounded student that we all want all of our children to be.
I think this is fantastic, and our unweighted GPA standard of 3.4 is higher than the standard that the National Collegiate Honors Council keeps for college students in our nation, which is a 3.25. So we're still setting the bar high, and I think it's exciting that we're going to be able to recognize more kids. Do you have anything?
I just want to say thank you to the team. This has been a conversation. This has been a 5-year conversation. And when Mr. Dykstra says we look at transcripts, there were many, many hours spent in conference rooms putting students' transcripts and scores and lots of different options on the table. And so I want to thank this team. It's been a long conversation. Thank you for your hard work. And it's really exciting for our students, so thank you.
And how cool is it that we're going to be the first ones in Maryland to do it? Awesome. I just want to point out that the 30-day comment period is next. So the public, especially including our students, whatever they want to share, please encourage them, CRASC, to get online. We don't always get a lot of online traffic on policies, but this is when we want to hear from the students and parents as well. So that'll be next.